Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 43. So we are here in January, and it is finally cold. I think we were talking about that last week, but it is definitely feeling like winter here in Arizona. And so we thought, and we're starting to get questions that are kind of related to the weather. We always kind of do. But we had one last week that I thought was an interesting topic that we're going to go ahead and discuss today. But before we get to it, we have a couple of housekeeping notes that we want to share with everybody. The first housekeeping note would be, if you have a question, what do they do, sweetheart?
State question or write question, preferably in caps, before your question is stated. That way it stands out. And just check out the first comment on here, and they did a perfect job.
That's exactly what we want. So, and who was it? So we don't know. Eva Zita did
We'll get to that question.
Yes. And then number two would be give us a thumbs up. So if you're enjoying the content here today, would love it if you guys would do that for us. It's very helpful, not only today, but in perpetuity. So if you want to bounce over to, we got a little spreadsheet to help keep us on track today. We are going to get to the topic of the week, but we want to give everybody a few minutes to kind of join here. Usually it takes a few before everybody's here. So a couple things, a couple highlights. What's the first one on there?
So as you all know, we have goats, and we got a buck not too long ago that
Thad.
we had in with the girls. Mm-hmm. And we finally separated him out from the girls. Because if they are not pregnant yet, we don't want them to get pregnant right now and have babies in the summertime.
Right. So we finally did the math because we watched Thad chasing Rosie around, what was it, about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
No, maybe 3 weeks ago. So he's chasing her and she is not interested. And so as I was thinking about it, I'm like, how long is the gestation period for a goat? And it's 5 months. So we did the math. We're like, oh, that's June. Let's shut this down. We don't want to be having kids out there in June. So we don't know whether or not we have pregnant goats. I don't know. I know Rosie just never seemed interested at all. But Violet's looking a little chunkier than normal.
She is, so we'll see.
And she's been really calm, like unusually calm. So, and he wasn't chasing her at all. He was only chasing Rosie. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, had to separate him out.
Pray for us that at least one of them are pregnant.
We want some kids, literally.
Don't have grandkids. I need other babies.
Yeah, you're sure filling that empty hole in your heart right now with animals.
Oh, man.
So we got two. What was the other one?
So the other one is more than 60% done with pruning.
Yes, and that was an estimation by me. I think it might be a little closer to 70% done. So we've really been hitting the pruning hard for the last probably almost 4 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And we've still got trees in both areas. We've been doing a lot of filming. We've got a lot of videos for you guys that are coming up here over the next several weeks. And obviously, it's a pruning. This time of year is a pruning focus for everyone across the country, really the whole northern hemisphere. If you're doing pruning, winter pruning, you're looking at that right now. And so we're kind of in the same boat. I've got a few things. We've got the almonds and pomegranates left on the west side. And we have mainly the figs. We've got the pears and the figs on the east side, and then the black Pakistans, depending on what we want to do back there, which is probably not a lot. We don't typically prune those trees. We want them big and beautiful.
And the grapevines.
Oh yeah, the grapevines. Totally forgot about that. The nice part about the grapevines is they go very fast.
Oh yeah, they're easy.
Yeah, so usually we have almost 50 grapevines, including the ones up front. And it takes us basically about a day. But for sure, that's done within a weekend. So it just doesn't take very long. Mm-hmm. So the good news is we've got the majority of that done. My guess is we'll probably be done by the second week of February, which is good because you know what that means. Second week of February is fertilizing season.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody hates fertilizing.
Me included.
Yes, yeah. Especially you, since you're the one that has to do them.
I know.
It's not me.
I know.
So you guys know we have folks that send in. Do we have any highlights or anything? Well, we did the highlights. Is there anything else? Or are we good? Good to rock and roll. Maybe we had done it early today.
Yeah. Just
what are the chances? Okay,
over
so
the topic.
yep. So we have I think we've got a question. I probably should get to that now.
Yeah, we got a couple questions on here.
Yep. And what's the first one? Let's answer that question real quick.
So, how do you prune your jujube trees? Some say don't prune, some advise to prune, and some say no matter what you do to jujube, it will do its own thing.
So one of the things that happened when we got our livestock guardian dogs is everybody was insistent that those dogs will not listen. They will do whatever they want to do. And I will tell you that that's probably true. So, I mean, if we want those dogs to do something, chances are good they're not going to do it. And if they want to do it, they're going to probably do it no matter what it takes. But all that to say, I think it's the same with jujubes, and I agree with part of that comment. So last year we pruned the jujubes, did a lot of research on how to prune. There wasn't a whole lot of video content, but there was some written content from folks that have been pruning jujubes for quite some time. And so we followed kind of the general rule of thumb. And now that we come back and look at the growth on that tree based on the pruning, it did whatever it wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. So where we thought we would get some growth in one direction, it's not there at all. And it's kind of going everywhere. So I think for me, what I'm going to concentrate on this year is what we've done in the past, which is kind of your pruning 101 is concentrate on downward facing branches that are going to basically go into the ground. At crossing branches, so any branches that are crossing because you don't want to have that rubbing up against either the trunk or other branches, and then dead or dying branches. Like if you've got any dead, dying, broken branches, those are the only things I'm going to prune. I'm not going to try to do anything else. So if you're going to prune for size, you definitely can do that. We've got one, the Shaanxi Li is more of I would say more of a bush. And we cut that because we had to. It was almost falling over the first year, so we cut it back, and it's grown. It's definitely contained, so it's not going to get quite as big. And because jujubes was brought up here, we planted a tree today, and it happened to be a jujube. So
we now have 5 jujubes.
5. Yeah, we got 5 jujubes. So we'll be more on that to come.
Mm-hmm. So. Moral of that is you can kind of do whatever you want with the jujube tree.
Yeah, it seems like you can because the jujube is going to do whatever it wants. So, all right.
But I would definitely prune it. I would not prune it because one said some say don't prune. So I would definitely do it to get out those crossing and damaged and downward.
Right.
And
other than that, you probably don't actually have to prune it, honestly. And even with some of the crossing branches, with us here super dry. I don't know that every season you'd have to necessarily do that. I think if you just had problems with a branch, I agree. You probably could just leave them alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. From what I've seen, you put wood chips right up against the trunks. Mm-hmm. Is that just because of the dry climate you are in or because you water from underneath or something else?
Yeah, basically both of those. So the primary reason is because we're so dry. We haven't done a video on this yet, but we have a lot of folks that ask us about the wood chip pile in the back and just, encouraging us to just spread the wood chips everywhere. Well, the problem is they don't break down at all. So we've got wood chips that have been back there for 5 years. You pull up and on the bottom, there's wood chips down there. No dirt. They haven't broken down at all. So essentially it's mainly that. The second thing is, yes, so in combination with that, not only do we not have moisture, we also water away from the trunk. So from day one, we water away from the trunk. You guys have seen our double ring design. So we're always watering away from the trunk. And that's what happened. So, yeah.
So we have Masood,
Hey, Masood, how are you? Mahaba. I think I said that right, hopefully.
Did you?
I think so. We'll see.
I just can't read it because it's not this. And then we have Pam here
Pam.
with the super chat.
Oh, thank you for the super chat,
Thank
Pam.
you, Pam.
You are such a sweetheart. Such a sweetheart. Always. Okay, so I think we got a few folks here now, so we need to kind of dig into the nitty gritty. So we got a question. I think it might have been Saturday morning of last week. So it was right before we got on here, a few hours before we got on here. So we already kind of had, have a spreadsheet that we fill out, so it kind of keeps us on track when we're doing this. And this question came over, and I thought, this is actually a really good question. And, one of the challenges, it happens here on YouTube as well. So whenever you use certain buzzwords like climate change, I'm sure this will happen on this video too. You get a little disclaimer at the bottom because it's a hot topic. And maybe it's a hot topic. You see what I did there? But anyways, so, but ultimately asked if we had changed any of the processes or procedures of how we prune our trees based on the hotter weather. So I thought it was a good question. And obviously it fits into kind of the season we're in, the pruning season. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. So we've got a couple of things we're going to show you here up on the screen in just a minute. So if you guys are listening to this, you may not necessarily see it, but I'll kind of describe what we're looking at here in just a minute. But what I think I want to do is number one is obviously you guys comment all you want to, it's fine. One thing I won't do here, and it's part of just me being a pretty staunch middle of the road libertarian, is I'm not going to really take a side. So I'm not going to be for or against. We'll just put it that way. I think there's a lot of debate, and if we want to have that here today, we can definitely do that. But I think there's, in my opinion, the jury is still out. And so what I wanted to do though is address it either way. And so what I want to do is we're going to show you this first one. I wanted to go and start with the 4. So assuming that what Al Gore told us 30 years ago is true, and that is that the ice caps are going to melt and everybody's going to fry. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Lori, if you want to go ahead and kind of put this up. So obviously, you have big names in government that talk about climate change. I figured this would be a good one. First one, you just deleted it.
Shut it up. Sorry.
Yep. So I'm not where you're headed. So technical difficulty. Go ahead and put us back on so everybody could see us. So I don't know if you're going to find it again. But what you guys saw up on the screen, Lori will get it.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's my fault. I closed the screen out.
It's all right. So that first one, guys got a brief shot of that. That was the United Nations. So that was the United Nations, their front page on climate change goes through the concerns with the kind of 4 climate change concerns about, increasing weather, polar ice caps melting, flooding, natural disasters increasing, all the things that too much or more moisture could potentially cause. And so with that, obviously the concern would be heat and higher temperatures. And so I think one of the things that we have here in Arizona is a good example of what could happen if that's true. So if that's a factual occurrence, we are a good example of what the rest of the country might look like. So if you go up a few degrees, all of a sudden now, you have summers like ours potentially. Now, you may have more humidity, but higher temperatures. And so the main shift, you want to bounce over to our Excel spreadsheet here. So if you just kind of want to walk through the steps. So the first one would be time frame. So you would have to adjust your time frame. Now, a lot of folks that are in more temperate climates here in the United States, they're maybe starting their pruning now, but really don't need to look for pruning until February into March, maybe even into April in the areas that are completely north of us here. So you have these folks that are used to pruning very late, maybe right before everything breaks dormancy in, say, May, they're going to have to follow our schedule. So they're going to be working on pruning in December or January because the trees are going to hold all of their leaf matter much later into the year. So that would be the first one. The second thing would be your open centers on your trees. So for us here in Arizona, we've done open centers on our tree. That's been the design of our trees. And so the open center where you have more heat and you have more sunlight potentially that would come into that open center, you have to be cautious with having a very, very wide open center and taking too much leaf material out of the middle of the tree. Now, the third thing is you're going to have more growth because you're going to have a longer growing season. So these trees, they're going to break dormancy earlier and they're going to be hold on and not go dormant until much later. So again, much more like we have here, you're going to have a lot more growth. So you'll get more water sprouts on a tree. You'll get more just overall vegetation on the tree. So you will have to do a lot more pruning, especially during the pruning timeframes. Now, in addition, one of the things that we avoid here is we avoid summertime pruning. The reason why is because of the intense sunlight that we get in the middle of summer. And having those trees lose some of the foliage, which is protection for these trees with that intense sunlight, you have to be very, very cautious with doing summertime pruning on trees when you have an extended summer season and more heat. So all of those things would be a concern and would have to shift if the climate shifts, especially if it shifts significantly. I need to take a drink real quick. So those would be the main things that we would have to look at and have to make adjustments on if we have a severe change in climate on the hot side. So if everything warms up. Now, the converse of that may also be true. What I want to show you here, we'll see if how Lori's doing. So the first, these were both government websites I wanted to show you guys, just because obviously there's a lot of kind of back and forth on this. So this is actually the NIH. It's a division of the NIH. And you can see this one here. It says many climate change scientists do not agree that global warming is happening. And then it goes into some details here. One of the things it talks about is a 10-year period since, I believe it was 1997, where we actually had some significant cooling versus warming. So in this same period of time. One of the things that we've also noticed here is we've had so prior to this winter, the last 2 winters have been very wet and very cold. So we've had more cold days and more rainy days up until this year. So this year has been much more normal as far as our warm weather is concerned. Now, we've also gone and had a longer spring. So the spring has gone into May and June. We've had some very, very late frosts. So we've had frosts that have gone into last year. We had frosts in April. So middle of April, we were getting frost here out in Whitman. So for you guys in the city, didn't get quite as cold, but we did get frost here in Whitman. So we kind of got a quick glimpse into what if the opposite is true. If you guys have seen the Ice Age Farmer, I know he has topics on this. He discusses it on a regular basis. So there's folks out there that believe that it's possible that we could actually have a cooling period. And so the reverse could also be true. So obviously when it comes to things like that, the same issues as far as your pruning timeframes. So the pruning timeframes would actually get much longer. And so if we get cooler earlier, say get cooler in October or earlier than that even, we would start seeing trees go dormant a month to 2 months earlier and not coming out of dormancy until 2 to 3 months later. So of course we would just reverse and go into the same pruning timeframes as we would have across the rest of the country. And so for us, it would simply be a longer period of time. We wouldn't be struggling to try to get pruning done in a 3 to 4 week period, which is about what we have to do now. Now, at the same time, we would have certain things like your tropical trees. They would be a no-go, complete no-go at this point. So for you guys in the city where tropical trees are a possibility, you definitely can do it with some extra work. A few degrees colder and you're out here with us all of a sudden. And now you have tropical trees that simply won't survive. Now, at the same time, we have the ability to change the structure of the trees at that point. So we definitely can go to a much more, and would need to go to a much more open center. So if you're already designing your tree like we talk about here with an open center, although it's small as far as the total mass and that's open in the center, you would be able to expand that and allow the tree to get even more sunlight because you would need it, because you would have less sunlight penetrating the canopy, which would be important. And then I believe the one last thing is frost. So we had talked a little bit about that. Now, a lot of this has to do with variety. So I think the biggest challenge that we would have as far as our fruit trees are concerned when you're talking about this is the varieties that you're using. So, we use varieties here that have low chill hour requirements. These trees are all designed to be in warmer weather. They are cold hardy down to a certain point, but not any further. And so, if we had the opposite occur where it was colder, we'd be challenged with that. And then on the opposite side, if it is actually getting warmer, the challenge would be you have these fruit trees that have chill requirements that are much higher, and you're not going to meet them. Now, there have been some studies. In fact, there's a program or a test in Irvine that's been for quite some time. I think it's going on 2 decades now in California, where they have some high chill apple varieties, and they're getting production on these high chill varieties in Southern California, where they get essentially no chill hours or very, very few. And we have noticed that some of our high chill varieties that we have attempted here will still get fruit on them. So it won't be much, but we still can. So, but either way, I think when it comes to pruning, the one thing that we have changed, because you guys know we do an open center on our pome fruit and our stone fruit. And you'll see here as you watch some of our pruning videos over the next few weeks is we are adjusting that open center. One of the things that these trees always do really well at is covering the open center. So we get new growth, water sprouts that come up in the middle of the tree. We've always cut those out because we're trying to encourage the outward growth and the open center on these trees. But one of the things we noticed is we were getting too much sunlight penetration on some of our trees that were a little too wide. And so we are adjusting how we're treating the open center on all of our trees this year. And one of the things you'll notice is that we have more branching that we're keeping on the center of these trees. We're just keeping them short. So instead of it being a vase where you have, it's open all the way down to the very base of the trunk where you have that open center, it's going to be more of a bowl. And so what we're doing is we're cutting the branching that's throughout the middle of the center of the tree. We're cutting it down. So two advantages, obviously number one, to ensure that we have some foliage and some protection in the middle of that tree as we go into the summer months. The second thing is to increase production. So we don't want to lose production on the center of those trees. And then of course, with your spur fruiting varieties, which is a lot of your stone fruit minus peaches and nectarines, and all the apples that we grow here, these trees all produce on spurs. And so those spurs are developed when you cut branches back. That induces spur growth. You guys will see this on the video we're posting tomorrow. We discussed that on our video tomorrow. So because we're showing you guys apples, and you'll see that change in pruning. So just to make sure that we're not having too wide of an open center. We lost a branch off of the Texas King, and I believe that's what happened. It got a little too wide. We had some branches taken off of the center of that tree in the middle of summer, which we don't typically do. And I believe we got some damage onto the side. It was the north-facing branch, and I believe it got way too much sunlight penetration. So we're going to make sure that we don't have that occurring again. So, all right, I'm done talking.
For the moment.
For the moment. We'll take some questions that we might have from you guys.
Yeah, so can you give an update on your later season apples pruned modified central leader? Right.
So it sounds like you watched our video last year. So, and the trees did not grow much this year. So we only got about maybe a foot of growth off of those trees. Typically, we're good for 2 or 3 feet of growth after making a cut. Didn't make quite as many cuts. We did have all of those trees fill in a little bit in the center. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to pretty much maintain that modified central leader and just take out, much like the jujube conversation, we're going to be focusing on taking out crossing branches, downward facing branches, broken and dying branches. So we're going to kind of focus on that. I am going to go back through across the tips and tip them back a bit just to make sure we continue to get that upward growth. We did get a fruit set on the Gala, and we got a fruit set on the Jersey Mac. So haven't seen any fruit set yet on the Wainucci. But those two trees did set fruit. Both of those got destroyed by birds, which is not uncommon. That's pretty much normal. And it wasn't a lot of fruit. I only saw maybe half a dozen on the Gala.
Yeah.
And I think maybe 2 or 3 dozen, and they were very small on the Jersey Mac. So, but they didn't survive the summer. And they actually did get some sun damage as well. I noticed that on the Jersey Mac. So definitely want to make sure we're still maintaining some much denser foliage on those fall apple varieties. Still hopeful. We did get the Waddell pear. So we did get an actual ripe Waddell pear. It was actually really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was super, super good. We weren't doing any videos at that point. We had them in December. So I think the challenge might be trying to show everybody, maybe on a short us having one of those fruit and having it be ripe. But either way, yeah, that's the plan. That's
all right, Masoot was asking for an update on Sasha. So Kegel dog.
Yeah, so she's doing really good. So I don't know when we'll have our first vlog because we're trying to get more how-to content up for everybody this year. So I'm not sure when we will, but they'll definitely be in it. In fact, you'll still see them in some of these videos. I think you'll see them. She's doing great. She's getting massive.
She is so big.
So that girl, if you come over and she decides she wants to jump up on you, you will be face to face with a large dog. And she's as friendly as can be to people.
She is.
So yeah, I'm not sure how ferocious she would be as far as a guard dog. I think if you're a rabbit, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If you're a person, probably not.
Yeah. So Pam was commenting, she said she'd be surprised if you get a lot of viewing because she's had friends that have had climate control in their titles and they've been hidden.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can already see it. There's not very many folks here today. It's pretty common. So they don't like us talking about this, but it was a question. I had to answer it.
Yeah. And then Michael's afraid of the pests that they never had before.
Oh, as far as change, I agree. So I will say one of the things that we've had, so we had a lot of rainfall in the spring, which is uncommon. We don't typically get a lot of rainfall in the spring. We will get some rainfall in the wintertime. That's common. We will get some rainfall in the summertime. That's obviously very common with the monsoons. But one of the challenges we've had is we've had rainfall in the spring, which is pretty uncommon, and heavy rainfall, consistent rainfall, where there's been a lot of moisture on the ground. And of course, that does change the activity of insects.
Yeah.
And the last 2 years, we've had a deluge of whiteflies that have just been all over our grapevines. I mean, all over them. And so one of the things that I'm hopeful for, if it continues to stay dry through the spring, is it'll affect the hatch of those whiteflies. It should. So we'll see. But I agree.
So Daryl had said that it's like 6 degrees. We're in Louisiana. He says that it seems to have colder weather for the last 10 years. It's getting colder and colder.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's been strange because we've had some record temps here during the summertime for the last few years, and different types of records we've been breaking. We've been breaking high temperatures. And what's interesting is a few of those have been records from the early 1900s. So take it for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. But the challenge for so hot then, but we've had cooler springs, very much cooler springs. In fact, it's really kind of messed up a couple of our harvests. In fact, last year we got those late frosts into April, completely destroyed our entire main crop of figs. You guys noticed there was no fig content last year. It's because we didn't get a harvest. So
well, let me, because Eric had a question. It says, how much will this year's lack of chill hours due to warm winter affect next season's fruit production? So I think it kind of ties into what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, so the warm winter for our varieties that we have on the farm, not a problem. So we've already clocked a couple hundred chill hours. So we pretty much covered the vast majority of the types of plants we have here. The exceptions would be our fall apples, but we've only got 3 varieties, and even they're down at like the 500 chill hour range, which we probably will still hit if we continue to stay cold here over the next few weeks. But either way, these are low chill varieties. So the reality is they're not going to have an issue with setting fruit. In fact, because they break dormancy early, not having those frosts that we've had for the last few years will be a benefit because we've had damage to our nectarine crop, basically a complete loss. I had mentioned just a moment ago, we lost basically our entire main fig crop was gone last year.
Because of the late frost.
Because of the late frost. All those trees break dormancy in March, give or take, and put on new growth. All the fruit was there. I was looking at it going, oh, this is good, because all that rain and moisture, the fig trees were happy. And then all of a sudden we got frost after frost after frost, and I watched the leaves wilting back and all the fruit wilt and fall off the trees. So I'm looking forward to that coming back because that shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have that happen, usually here in Arizona. So we'll see.
And then we have a bunch of happy birthday, Dwayne.
What? What birthday?
How young are you now?
If you guys can see this right here, I fell into some white paint, got on my chin. No, but I am 52 years old.
Yes.
Today. So
today.
Yeah.
Went and had sushi last night with our kids.
Yep, that was fantastic. Thank you, Austin, Nikki, for joining us last night. That was nice. And hey, plug for Ugly Tuna Sushi if you guys are here on the Northwest side. We've got a couple of sushi places now. Trapper Sushi. I can't remember the other one that was right down the street on Bell. Not as big a fan there. Trapper's got a cool environment and some funky sushi. But if you want like good old-fashioned rolls and stuff, Ugly Tuna Sushi is a good option. So yeah. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So it's good stuff. Yeah. But thank you guys.
Yeah, I got lots of happy birthdays.
Yeah. So maybe we'll be able to wrap up early today and we can, I don't know, go have a cocktail. I don't think that's going to happen. It normally doesn't.
Probably not,
No.
But
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
I think we're caught up on questions. So
Oh,
we
wow.
have everything over here.
Yeah, we do. All right, good deal. So I think the last one was a permo. So we've got a couple other questions. Oh, by the way, for you guys, make sure you guys are sending us your questions. You guys do a good job of asking questions here. If something comes up, email us, message us on Facebook or Instagram. You can easily find us there. Send us an email, info@eonfarm.com. So info@eonfarm.com, or either one of our names at eonfarm.com will work. Or if you want to spell out edgeofnowherefarm.com, you can do that too. Both of them work. But make sure you guys are sending us questions. We want to make sure we are covering the topics that you guys are interested in. And so, yeah, we'll make sure we do that. So but we've got some backup questions. So we'll take your question. Go ahead.
Do you want to do the backup or I do a question?
Yeah, if we got a question, let's hit it. Let's do it. That's why we're here.
Well, one, did you have some cake, Dwayne?
No. So I know we almost got some cake last night. Didn't have any cake. So we make a keto, what'd you call that? Like a coffee cake? Or what would you call that cake that we had this morning?
It's like a butter cake.
Okay, a butter cake. So that makes sense. But it's made out of almond flour and a couple other things. And it's actually pretty good. So, and this morning we had one, we added in the mulberry. I thought the mulberry was really good.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. So that was as close to it. We're going to make some keto ice cream tonight.
Yeah,
Right?
so we started a keto chocolate ice cream before we got on here to put that in the ice cream maker later.
And it's a chocolate chip.
Yes.
It's very good. So surprisingly good. In fact, from the recipe, we've had to cut back on the sugar. So we use, if you guys know Lakanto, it's like a erythritol. It's a combination of erythritol and monk fruit. It's a really good one-to-one sugar replacement and a more natural 0-calorie sugar replacement. And it does taste better than, I won't do your chemical artificial sweeteners. I'm not interested in the chemicals. And so, but either way, it does a really good job of replicating a sugar flavor.
Yeah.
And so we do that. Do you put any almond extract in the?
I either do an almond or vanilla. So today I did a little bit of vanilla extract. Yeah, so it's just like milk, cream, or half and half. Milk, cream.
Cocoa powder?
We did cocoa powder. Sometimes I'll melt down some of the Lily's chocolate chips and put it in there. Cocoa powder, the sugar that you were just talking about, substitute, and a little bit of vanilla.
Yeah, so it's great. It only has a few carbs in it. Obviously a nice little shot of fat because of the cream that's in there. But it's really good. Obviously it's not your regular ice cream, but when you're not eating sugar, it's a great alternative. So, and the studies that I've seen some people that have a glucose monitor, they do erythritol, and it doesn't affect their blood sugar at all. So, I think it's a good option. So we'll be doing that, and we have chili. Chili's going right now. So one of the things that we've learned, because we're here with you guys in the middle of the day on Saturdays, is a crock pot dinner is best.
Yes, that way you get it started in the morning, and then we're not having to try to rush to make dinner after we get off here, because we do go to bed at 7 o'clock, so we eat dinner by 4 o'clock.
So to be fair, we usually go to bed at 8 o'clock on the weekends.
Oh, okay, 7 o'clock during the week. But we still eat dinner by 4 o'clock because we don't want to eat anything after 5.
Because we do intermittent fasting too. So it's all these complicated things, but I don't know. I feel good, so... I'm 52. I feel better today than I have probably most of my adult life, if not all of it. So
we're crazy. Okay, So we have Kim on here. My goal 6 months ago was to learn how to prune fruit trees. Every video and book I read said inverted vase for stone fruit and central lead or MCL structures for apple pear after finishing V-shape. Now that I've completed the V shape on my plum, should I let some branches grow in the middle?
Yes. In fact, we were just talking about that. So, yes. So what we've always done in the past is we've allowed the canopy to grow, because the trees grow very rapidly here. So assuming you're getting strong growth, we do on our trees here, it'll fill in the canopy for the most part. But as the trees get bigger, the challenge is your growth obviously continues to go out. So if you're doing that and allowing the trees to grow out like this, the challenge is that middle continues to get wider and wider as well, and that could be a problem for us. And so as our trees have gotten bigger, in this year, we're adjusting that. So we're basically going to get a bowl. So there will be some growth in the middle, but it will be lower to the trunk, so it won't completely fill in. We don't want that because we want to be able to get into the tree for harvesting. So it'll basically be a bowl versus a vase. But no, central leader, could you do it? Sure, it's not a problem, as long as you want a nice tall tree. So if that's what everybody's doing, is you want a nice big tall tree, go for a central leader. There's no reason not to do that. Just realize that your fruit production is going to continue to get higher and higher up off the ground. So make sure you're working the bottom of the tree still, so that you have new growth that comes in, and you're establishing fruiting spurs and taking care of your fruiting spurs further down on the tree if you're going to go with that design. The open center design for us here in Arizona, the main advantage is keeping the fruit production low. Because we don't really need the airflow and light penetration, though you do need some on some varieties. You're going to still get some of that naturally because we have so much intense sunlight. But I will tell you, on the fruit that still need some sun on it to ripen, like your peaches ripen better with fruit on it or with sun on it, if that center's not open and they don't get sunlight, you're going to have uneven ripening. And so that's another thing to consider as you're trying to determine what to do with the tree at this point. So, but I can tell you, the open center design on most of your trees, you're still going to have a nice, big, beautiful tree. We've got some our 5-year-old peach trees now. They're pushing 12 feet tall, maybe 13 feet tall. This year, we didn't do a lot of pruning at the tips. Really interested to see just how tall those trees are going to get. My guess is they'll top out at between 15 and 20 feet. And, so that's just still a nice big tree, lots of production, and you're not dealing with a 30-foot tall tree, which those trees with a central leader, you almost kind of need them to be 30 feet tall in order to get all of your production in there, because you're not going to have the production on the middle of the tree that's going to be easy to access. So yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily a wrong answer. I think that, for us here in particular, you could really do either one.
So Pam was asking the name of the sugar substitute, and is it in your Amazon store? And I don't think it's in the store. Pam, I just text you the two that we buy. The Whole Earth one is the one that I prefer, which I actually get at Costco because it's a lot cheaper than it is on Amazon.
Yeah, don't buy that one on Amazon. You can get it at because did Walmart have it?
Walmart has it. It's cheaper than on Amazon as well. But Costco, if you have a Costco membership, if they have it in stock, it's a good price there. But those are the two that we tend to buy.
Costco hasn't had it for the last few weeks.
I know.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But
Yeah.
the Lecanto you can always get from Amazon. It's pretty much always on there.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's pretty much the same stuff. So, yeah.
So Michael says that you need to have an IPA or an APAS beers. Have a beer. So happy birthday. Okay, question, follow-up. Can you offer more insight into uneven ripening? Like half of one fruit will be ripe and the north side not. Or some fruit will ripen on the tree earlier than other fruit.
Right. So a little bit of both. So most fruit needs some sunlight in order for it to ripen correctly. And so, yes, you'll see that the fruit that is facing the inside of the tree, if it's shaded on the inside, you'll have regular ripening and color on one side, and it'll be either green or a lot lighter color on the other side. And of course, color, your carotenoids and other beneficial antioxidants that are in your fruit, that color gives you some additional health benefit. So at least that's my understanding. So you want to have that even ripening, and so it won't happen. Same thing with fruit that's inside the canopy. It's protected, so under certain circumstances we want it. That's one of the reasons our fall trees, we're doing a modified central leader, kind of just really more of a bushy tree, to allow that fruit to survive the summertime, because it needs to survive all summer long into the fall, and it's got to dodge sunlight, for multiple months in order for it to get that far. So, I think it depends on the variety. Is it going to be ripe in the spring, which is really the only successful fruit that we've found here in Arizona consistently successful, is spring through early summer. And so that tree design will allow you to make sure you get that ripening. Plus, the sun is not completely overhead by the time May hits. It's still angled just a bit in the south. It's actually this way. So, any of your fruit that is facing north still doesn't have sunlight on it. So having that sunlight penetration through that central or that open center can potentially help.
Do you grow any of these? Goji berry, elderberry, turmeric, ginger, or sorghum?
So we grow sorghum. We grow that kind of in multiple stages, but sorghum does really well for us. We have not done ginger or turmeric. I think at some point we probably will come back and give those a shot. They should do well here. Turmeric in particular should do great for us. We just haven't grown it. What was the first one?
So goji berry and elderberry.
Right. So we haven't attempted elderberry. My understanding is elderberry struggles here, mainly because of the dry weather. Your kiwis, like your hardy kiwi and stuff, should do well here. Pawpaws should do well here. But because we don't have the humidity, my understanding is those varieties generally need some additional humidity. So you might need to, if you're going to attempt that, I think you're going to need to give it some shade, number one, and get it somewhere where you're going to have some more humidity. So maybe closer to the house, something like that. Goji berry does grow here. We've had a goji. In fact, I think we've talked about this before.
We have one still.
The very first tree that we bought when we moved out of the city was what?
A goji berry.
Correct. So it was in the fall, and it was on clearance. I think you got it for what, $4 or $5?
Yeah, I think I got it for $5 at Lowe's. I just bought it just to buy it.
Yep.
And
we abused that thing. It stayed in that pot for a while.
Yeah.
And so, probably didn't water it enough because we just moved and whatnot. But we finally put it in the ground, and we've got some videos on the old farm of that plant. Mm-hmm. And it does grow. In fact, it grows pretty well. It's not the prettiest looking thing because it loses its leaves in the summer and it loses its leaves in the winter. And right now it looks like it's dead, but it's not.
It comes back every time.
It comes back every single time. It's very drought tolerant. We don't really kind of water it where it's kind of hidden here. We haven't talked about it much, only because we never get fruit off of it.
No, anytime it even tries to fruit, the birds attack it. Mm-hmm. So we've given up on it. It's just there.
Yeah, we've gotten a few very small pieces of fruit. Of course, the fruit's tiny.
It's really small.
It's not much bigger. I mean, it's bigger than a piece of rice, but, if you guys have seen, it's not much bigger than barley. So, they're just not very big for us here, probably because of the climate. But it does grow well. It's thorny. and it's very bushy. It sends out runners, so it will take over an area that it's in. And so, yeah. And it's not very attractive.
No, it's not. It's not.
It only really looks nice in the spring because it doesn't even look nice in the fall. It gets some growth back, but it's like at the tips and
Yeah. It does like a lot of water though, because if I don't water it very often,
It does much better not in drought conditions.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we've always treated it like the rest of our trees. It hasn't been watered a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like your elderberry conversation. You probably want to keep them closer to the home. Maybe put them in a pot. Maybe get them in the shade because it's not going to hurt. You definitely won't hurt for that to be in the shade. It's going to grow either way, and
Yeah.
it'll probably do better.
Pam said that she's tried 4 elderberries and the summer takes them out every time, even under shade up against the house.
Okay, and if you, Pam, tell me if I'm oversharing, but Pam, we've been to her house a couple times, and so she has literally her whole any open area is growing food.
Yeah.
It is everywhere. It's impressive. And so, she's got these cool pathways to go through. Anyways, there's food production all over the place. And so, a lot of understory and larger trees and plants under those areas. Some of them are in pots, some of them are not. She's got a limited space, but it's just full of all these wonderful plants. And so I will tell you, if Pam hasn't been able to do it, it probably can't be done. Especially on a smaller scale. Because she's got kind of that, she can control it a lot better than we can here. So, but thank you, Pam, for the notes on that. So,
have you all had, I missed a question because I know there was something about, Brian, how much did your wine setup cost roughly? Anything you would do differently, wish you spent more on or less on?
So I will tell you that if you're going to, no matter what, get a press. It took us, we did several years without a press, and having the press is worth every penny because you get so much more juice out of it by pressing it. So that's what I wish we would have done differently or added earlier. But I will tell you, any of the small kits, we started with a small kit. There's still a few things we're using out of that. Mm-hmm. So just, the box kits, I think we may have it I'm pretty sure we have it in our Amazon shop. It doesn't really matter. You can get them for $50 or $60 and it gives you all the things you need to make a gallon of wine. Mm-hmm. Shy of the fruit. You'll still need fruit or juice. But I think that's a great way to start. It's how we started. And then all we did was just build on it. And so I think that kit cost us, I want to say $50 or $60.
Yeah.
And we've always used our own fruit. And so the fruit, yes, we have some sunken cost into the fruit that we grow. That's true. But, water, we buy the plant, all that's true. But, we get that year after year. And so there's not a whole lot of cost in the fruit. The bottles, we recycle the bottles. The bottles are not too expensive. We have those on our Amazon shop. I think they're $25 now for a dozen. And again, you can just reuse those. The chemicals, you have to buy the chemicals because you'll wind up going through them. That's
all the fermenters and stuff. We have a lot of fermenters.
It's ridiculous. And it's because it happens all the time. We start to do something and then we just go all in and go big, so.
So I think, it can be what you want to put into it as far as the cost. I have no idea how much we've spent on wine making stuff, but it's
for less than $100 you can do a 1 to 5 gallon batch of wine. Yeah. And the fermenters can get expensive because there used to be, in fact, in town, I'm not sure where you're at, but there's some brewery places in town. That's probably your best bet to get the fermenters because you have to pay freight to get those things, shipping to get them from the online places. But the fermenters they're a one-time cost as well. So, a lot of what you get with your winemaking is you kind of build on it, So start out with a kit. You're going to need to get some bottles. For about $100, you should be able to start everything out and then just build on it from there if you enjoy it. But I would say you're going to probably spend about $100 realistically to get your first batch of wine that's going to turn out and you actually want to drink it. So,
have you all had some of the higher quality figs some are exceptional compared to what you can find at local nurseries.
Yeah, so we have several of the, well, a few. So like we have a black Madeira here on the farm. We have
White Madeira.
a white Madeira. Haven't gotten a fruit off the white Madeira. Have gotten one off the black Madeira. And then some of the other ones like the Panache and whatnot are good. The green Greek was really good. We got one off of that. So we do have a few. The black Madeira is one of those that everybody kind of talks about, and I wasn't impressed, to be honest with you. So I don't think it wasn't any better than the Panache. And I think the challenge that we have here that I've seen is it's too dry. And so, we don't have the ability to baby these trees here. So I think if figs can take a lot more water than the rest of the fruit trees that we have here. So I think if you're able to get it into a variety like that into a more humid environment, you're going to have an advantage. And a lot of the times when I see Black Madeira reviews, they're usually somewhere in the South, they're in the Pacific Northwest, they're somewhere in California, and it's just not here. It's not the same here.
Yeah. So Natasha at Enlightenment Garden, she has a lot of figs.
She does. Yep.
And she does focus on trying to find those rare, exceptional figs. So
Yep.
she would be one. She has a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and she's got a wonderful. You've been there a couple times.
Yeah. So and she's got a amazing, whole little food forest, thing going on in her backyard. So.
And she's on a smaller scale, and she does a lot more intensive production and watering. She's got a lot of understory and overstory. So she's done a lot of that, and she's got some good videos on taste testing, and she's had some better success. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's a good question.
So my second question.
Hey, if you guys can give us a thumbs up, that would be great. Appreciate it. Just got to throw that out there.
Yep, about all-in-one. It's a straight leader with, this is the all-in-one almond, straight leader with the branches growing randomly. How do I prune it? I would like a vase shape. It's 3 feet tall and 1 year old.
Okay, that's perfect. So you don't have a trunk? Do I understand that correctly? Or you do have a single trunk? I got to make sure I understand that correctly.
It just says it's a straight leader with branches growing randomly
all over, which that's what they do. They grow very vertical. Okay, if I understand this,
like a vase shape.
Okay, perfect. So this is the year to do that. So I don't know whether or not we've got a video on almonds. However, they're peaches. So if you watch our early videos on pruning peaches, it's the exact same. There's no difference. So you can, you've got a central leader. You're going to cut that down to say 3 feet, no more than about 3 feet. In height, and if you've got some side branching, that's fantastic. You're gonna, especially the first few years, you're gonna be challenged because unlike peaches that will grow wide, they'll grow horizontal for you quite easily. Your all-in-one almonds generally do not, and so they're like you're describing. They're gonna grow much more vertical. Now they'll grow more horizontal than say a a pear tree will. However, you're going to need to encourage them. So if you can get some horizontal or lateral branching this year, that would be great. You're going to want to establish your scaffold branching. Try to make those evenly. So if you're looking at the top of the tree, you're going to cut it back so you have a stump right here. You want to try to have even lateral branches, north, south, east, and west, or something similar to that. If you're looking down on top of the tree here. So try to make those as even as you can coming out from that trunk once you cut it off. So it's pretty much the same. And this year is the time to do it. And the fact that you're seeing good, strong growth, that's good to see. And then just realize you're going to always, in the first few years, you're going to be challenged to maintain that open center. The open center is very much a vase on our almonds. And much like the other trees, we're going to allow some additional growth to occur inside the middle of that tree. But when you're establishing it, which is now, you can take that center out. Hopefully that makes sense.
Email pictures if...
Yeah, you can email pictures if you're not sure. And again, go to our early pruning videos on our peach trees, and you're going to pretty much do the same thing.
Can you give us an idea of how many fig trees feed a family?
Oh, well, feed your family in what way? I mean, so... if you look at some of our old videos on the farm, on the old farm, we were able to control watering and some other things on the old farm better than we can here. And the fig trees that we had there, the 2 brown turkeys in particular, were overproductive. I mean, we would get a couple hundred fruit off of each one of those trees. So we get 2, 3, 400 fruit off of those trees in a single season. And that season's basically July, end of June, beginning of July. And so, one tree, a nice big brown turkey, can give you a whole lot of production. So I think the biggest thing is going to be variety. Brown turkey, black mission, panache, all of those will give you nice, heavy production. Some of your other common varieties just don't produce as heavy. In fact, those are really the only 3 that we get nice, heavy production on year after year. The blackjack, which is basically a smaller brown turkey. If you got a space for a brown turkey, do the brown turkey, not the blackjack. Mm-hmm. So,
I would say black mission and brown turkey.
Yeah, those 2. It's hard to beat those 2. So I would plant them both if you got the space.
Yep.
Yeah.
When do you usually prune figs?
Figs are always last. So that's the last thing we prune here. Typically that's February. So we're pruning figs in February. They usually break dormancy sometime in March, and they're the last ones to lose the leaves. They still had green leaves growing from the base up until we got our frost a couple weeks ago. So those are always last. So.
I picked up apple trees from RSI growers last fall, which are doing well. Mm-hmm. Reed seemed more interested in the increase in UV rays as opposed to climate change. What are your thoughts?
Well, so Reed and I disagree on some things only because he basically just calls us a hippie. He's not into permaculture and, soil generation and all those are foo-foo things for him. But in this case, I don't know that I could argue it. So, he pays more attention to that than I do. And obviously UV damage is a thing. And so, I think one of the reasons that we're focusing more on leaving some foliage in those open centers is just that, is making sure that we're not getting a lot of UV damage on the trees. We have always foregone painting of the trunks once we get a full canopy on there. We talked about it this year. We're going to probably go back and paint all the trunks again. Unless I've got, like our big black Pakistans. No, I'm not worried about them because they give themselves so much shade because they're so big.
Yeah.
But most of our trees, we're going to probably go back and paint all the trunks. So I think there's something to that. Mm-hmm. He would know better than I would. And that's one that I don't want to take a chance on, quite frankly. So, I think one of the things that we'll probably address in a future video is just that, is, what are some of the changes we're doing? Because it's, I think the reality is he has been following this.
Yeah.
And he's seen it consistently. And, he's been doing this forever, you guys. I mean, he grew up on a pear farm, I believe in California. And so, yeah, he's been doing this forever. And, things like that, I don't disagree with him on because I don't think I can. So,
yeah.
Good? We almost done? I think we're almost done.
Yeah, not a farm-related question. I've been hearing more about the benefits of using fresh milled whole grain flour. Mm-hmm. Do you mill your own flour for baking? If so, what brand of mill do you use? So
we don't do that. So I can't really speak to that. What I can speak to is having fresh whole ingredients. I've been a health nut for 20 years. And so probably more than 20 years. My dad had his first heart attack in 2004, and that threw me down this path of studying health and nutrition. And so I worked for a supplement company for several years. And, a big reason why we're here is because of just all of the things that I've read and studied and followed people that have cured themselves and healed themselves. And I can't tell you how many of them have farms. And one of the things that is very, very consistent, once you get away from, all the nonsense and garbage information that we've been fed for the last 50 years, which has been, I don't need to get into it here. You'll get me on a high horse and we're out of time. But because I can get down this road real fast. But our food supply is tainted, and it's tainted in so many ways. And so, you look at bread in other countries and it's not the same as bread here. The Mediterranean diet, highly espoused. I can't disagree because there's a lot of research on it. But one of the things that Italy in particular, they're very big on milling their own flour, making their own bread. And as much as we won't consume bread. If I was going to, it would definitely be that. I don't know that I would mill my own flour, but I would be looking for an organic, like maybe even a spelt, do maybe some ancient grains that haven't been messed with as much as wheat has. And so, or a traditional wheat. So I think that the further away you can get from a store-bought processed food, the better. The better. And, we make almost everything from as scratch as we can here. And, if we're going to be eating carbohydrates, it probably came off the farm with only a few exceptions, because it's the fruit off the farm. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of it. Even beans, I'm a big fan of beans. The beans are off the farm. And so even that I won't mess with as much as I'm able to. So I think if you're able to do it, you can, but I don't have a good suggestion for you. We don't have a mill, because we don't eat bread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good? We use almond flour for doing some little bit of baking, but
yep.
I think we're good.
Yeah, we good?
Yeah. Pam said, Dwayne, you are so right. I will be 66 in February, and nutrition is the top key into not only growing older, but growing without pains and issues.
I agree. Without so many pains. I agree, Pam.
So many pains, yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, but we've had that conversation. So yeah, it's why one of the reasons we do what we do.
Yeah.
All right, guys, you guys have been fantastic today. So really appreciate you guys being here today. This has been the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 43. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and got something out of it. Again, just want to remind you guys, if you can give us a thumbs up if you haven't done it already, make sure you're sending in your questions. So if you have questions or topics that you would like to see us address here as we go into the year, we'd love to see those. Just want to thank you again for being here. Thank you for spending the most valuable thing that we have here on the planet. That is time, and you choose to spend it with us. We don't take that for granted. Thank you for being here today, guys. We will see you next week. Same bat channel, same time.
Same bat channel?
Bat channel at 2 o'clock, Arizona. We will see you guys next week. And until then, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
so can you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.